Creepy story time about how my aunt passed away, part 2. So like I said, she makes us all sit down at the kitchen table and she pulls out a Ouija board. She was like, I found out how I can get some answers. I just feel like I need you guys around me for positive energy. And my family is very, very religious. Like, we don't fuck with that shit. But because my mom felt bad for her, she let her use it in our house. But my mom didn't want my sisters and I around that, so she just sent us to bed. Well, the next morning, I wake up and I ask my mom what happened with the Ouija board situation. My mom just said that it was really scary, because before she thought it was like a load of bullshit, and she said that her and my dad didn't touch the Ouija board, because like I said, they were very religious and did not mess with that stuff. But apparently, it said for her not to buy a house with the numbers 2815. Well, 2 years later, my aunt got remarried, and her husband ended up having 2 kids. So they bought a new house, and no, it didn't have the numbers on it. One of their kids accidentally shattered the glass door, so they went and got a new one, and it came with those exact numbers on it. 2 days later, the house burnt down and nobody survived. Part 2 about how I was dating the school shooter. Like I said, I had never told him that I was friends with these girls because they were controversial, but he would go on for hours about how much he hated these girls. He went as far to say that he wanted to kill them. I didn't think anything of it at first, because him and I had more of a sarcastic sense of humor, but he started to sound more and more serious every time that he would talk about it. Well, after us dating for 10 months, he calls me the one night, and he starts telling me about how he's going to shoot up the school. He had told me his entire plan of how he was going to do this. Now, he must have thought that we were like ride or die relationship, when in reality, I was recording everything that he was saying. After we got off the phone, I wrote an email to all of the office staff in my school, but I fell asleep and never finished the email. I woke up the next morning, finished it. I had texted my friends not to go to school that day. I had already missed the bus. I rode my bike to school that day. I ran to the principal's office, nobody was there, and that's whenever I heard shots in the hallway.
Part 4 about the worst night of my life. Just a little side note, I am in bed, so it's going to be a black screen, and you can probably hear my dog snoring. I'm just going to go from my point of view the rest of the time, because I texted my sister, but I think she's sleeping. So pretty much, I had to call my sister after my mom told her to go out the back door. And there was a Sheetz right across from where she was. But since she had to go out the back, she just saw like all woods and no gas station. So I got on the phone with her. She runs over to the gas station. And when we get back to my stepdad's house, we call our dad and let him know what happened. And the police actually got involved. And they had called my dad because my mom had called them and told him a bunch of stuff that just wasn't true. Like saying that my stepdad was a pedophile and stuff. Just like saying stuff that could actually ruin this man's life. And usually my stepdad would come pick us up and then drop us back off. But the police said that my dad had to come get us tomorrow morning, even though he had full custody and could decide who we could go with and stuff. So my dad came the next day and picked us up.
Story time about why I made my boyfriend stop being friends with his girl best friend. So a little background information. I was in my sophomore year of high school, and my boyfriend and I had been dating for about 6 months. And he had been best friends with this girl, we're gonna call her Addie, for about 3 years. Now, I had known Addie way before that, probably since we were in kindergarten. But her and I weren't like BFFs, we were more of acquaintances. But obviously, we became friends because she was always around my boyfriend. A month after him and I started dating, I decided that we had to set boundaries for their friendship. Because they had first period together, right? Well, every morning at 9:45, I would go on Snapchat and I would see a picture of them. And it would be her kissing him on the cheek. Not only would it be on her story, but it would also be on his. And I had her on Snapchat before that. She had never done that, ever. So he said that he had talked to Addie about it, right? And things were good for the next 2 months. Then they were forced to work together on a project. Like for part 2. Part 2 about why I made my boyfriend stop being friends with his girl best friend. So like I said, they had been forced to work together on a school project. At least that's what he told me. So I brushed it off because I was not about to seem like the jealous girlfriend. Well, the next day, him and I were supposed to go out to the movies. So I texted him right before we were about to leave, and I said, hey, are you on your way to get me? He goes, OMG, no, I'm sorry, I forgot. I have to work with Addie on this project. She's about to come over my house. So at this point, I'm like really pissed off. So I text him and I say, I thought you guys had a whole week to work on this project. Why does it have to be tonight? Addie knew that him and I were supposed to go to the movies that night also. He said, we just want to get it done really quickly so that way I can spend the rest of the week with you. And she's snapping me the whole time that she's at his house off of his phone. So at around 1:30 a.m., I get a Snapchat from her on his account and she's laying on his chest. Like for part 3.
Part 3 about why I made my boyfriend stop being friends with his girl best friend. So like I said, she snaps me at 1:30 in the morning, a picture of her laying on his chest, and it's captioned, "Hey girlie, I hope you don't mind, but I have to spend the night at his house. He lost track of time working on our project and it's way too late for him to take me home." So at this point, I'm furious and I don't snap her back. So the next morning, I call my boyfriend. And I asked him, "Hey, is Addie still there?" So he says yeah, and then I ask him to put me on speakerphone. So when he does, I say hi to Addie. She goes, "OMG, hey girl, how are you?" And that's when I pretty much go off on this bitch. I tell him that while he was asleep, she was sending me pictures of her laying on top of him off of his Snapchat, and that she was sending those type of pictures to multiple people on his Snapchat because my best friend had texted me that morning saying that she thought that we broke up because Addie was sending her pictures of her laying on top of him. So I tell him, pick me or her. And she starts crying. After a minute of silence, he hangs up the phone and then blocks me. Good luck to the next girl.
Story time about how I walked in on my fiance and another man. So a little background information. My fiance and I have been together for 4 years, and we started dating our junior year of high school. Well, we all went to Florida after we finally got engaged, and he invited his best friend and I invited my best friend. And I always got vibes that he was like really touchy with his best friend and just like other guys. But I was definitely not one of those people who was about to tell my boyfriend how to act. During Truth or Dare or something, someone would dare him to kiss like a guy and he would just do it. And I didn't really get any off vibes from that because I just did not think that way. So like I said, we all invited our friends to Florida. Well, I think like the third night that we got there, we all decided to go to the club. And we were having a super good time. Like everybody was just doing their own thing. I was with my girls. We were hanging out, taking shots. My boyfriend and his best friend, they were doing body shots off of each other. But my boyfriend said that he had drank too much, so his best friend took him back to the hotel room. Y'all will not believe what happened next. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I found my boyfriend and his best friend hooking up. So like I said, my boyfriend's best friend took him back to the hotel room. And I really wanted to spend time with him because we were only supposed to be there for like 3 days. So I decided I would go back to the hotel room early to go see him and make sure that he was okay. Well, I get to the hotel room and all the lights are off. It's very quiet and I think that everybody's sleeping. So I take my shoes off and I go to our room and nobody's in there. So I go to his best friend's room, and when I open the door, I see him and his best friend laying on the bed naked, making out. I literally stood there in shock for like 2 minutes, and they just like did not hear me, did not look over, did not see me or anything. Eventually, I literally was like, what the fuck? And they both look over, and my boyfriend is literally, it's like he saw a fucking ghost. So I leave the room, he gets dressed, he comes over to me, and he starts talking to me. Like for part 3. Part 3 about me finding my boyfriend and his best friend hooking up. So like I said, after I catch my boyfriend and his best friend naked together in bed making out, he takes me into the living room to have a talk. And I thought he was just gonna say, "Oh, I'm drunk, it didn't mean anything." Nope, complete 360, total opposite, not at all what I thought. He was like, "Listen, like, you know, I've been meaning to tell you this for a while. I just didn't know how to tell you. My parents are super religious. If I ever told them that I was gay, they would never accept me. They would cut me off, everything." And his parents were super fucking rich. So I kind of understood, but I was pissed the fuck off. Like, you